不是真正的高兴，可是又觉得嗨。我不是真正的伤心，可是我就觉得 low， 心情都很乱，想爆炸。
I really almost leapt off the edge. How do I tell my mother that I'm seriously struggling mentally? How do I talk to my father when we barely communicated? I'm scared, Mom. If anyone sees the content that I'm trying to put out, I'm hoping that they will look at it as a form of comfort and just feel a little bit of hope.
Hey. Are you even paying attention to me right now?
23岁的陈丽莎1年前开始在社交媒体上分享自己走出抑郁的心路历程。
People don't understand how real this is until someone really dies.
4年前，只不过19岁的陈丽莎被诊断出患有抑郁症。
抑郁症患者，他们的 neurotransmitter 不平衡，就会导致情绪失控。他们会难过到一种程度，无法轻易的逃脱，甚至会想寻死。
抑郁症是新加坡最普遍的精神疾病，而近年来，青少年抑郁症患者的数字也逐渐上升。18岁那年，进入理工学院后的陈丽莎，性格开始起了变化。
It was a very odd feeling for me because I used to be a very confident person, but being in such a different environment, I started to subconsciously compare.
学校的竞争让陈丽莎对课业日益反感。
Failure scared me. So the way I escape from this fear is to stop trying.
陈丽莎也随后沉浸在烟酒相伴的糜烂生活。
So every single time I'm sober, I'm not happy with myself. There's a lot of constant negative self-talk, and I progressively hated myself, and I couldn't be alone with myself because I was just uncomfortable with my thoughts. I started to be addicted to these feelings of getting high, and I just felt like I had nothing to worry about in the world.
陈丽莎当时的男友也同样沾染烟酒成瘾，在烟酒等兴奋剂的刺激下，也不时会暴力相向。
Suddenly, I got a punch when we were at the peak of our high. It's both a physical and mental shock. I'm not sure why I feel very, very worthless.
37岁的陈踏烈也是在升上理工学院后，情绪起了巨大的变化。
不知道为什么对读书没有什么兴趣，也是没有什么朋友，信息很乱，脑也是很乱的。我会很伤心，可是我不知道为什么，可能这个伤心是一种痛苦，知道吗？So the only way to numb the pain is to feel high. 之后，它让我变得很愤怒，很多压力，很多不满。有事没事跟人家吵架，对别人不开心，上学也不开心，做什么也不开心。
It's normal when people leave you.
19岁那年，陈踏烈和一名街头表演者起了冲突后晕倒，被送往医院，才被诊断出患有躁郁症，也被称为双向情感障碍。
这个情绪障碍呢，一般上都是在面对生活上的压力的时候，比较容易这个触发了。那抑郁的时候，情绪就往下滑，它也可以往上飙。它在高的时候呢，充满了活力，想做很多的事情，很可能是自以为是，在那种妄想之内啊，以为自己什么都行啊。
我没有把它 take it seriously 啊，我以为我吃了药，过了一段时间我也会好起来。
但陈踏烈在被诊断后的10年里， 一直在起伏不定的情绪中晃荡。
躁郁症病发的时候，我有时会觉得自己是 invincible， 好像骑脚车从泰座港到机场48小时打游戏，没有睡，有时会觉得自己想爆炸，就是有太多的能量，觉得自己很有能力了 ，grandiose， 买不起这个东西，可是我要买，嗨到自己有一个幻想，想要抓恐怖分子这样啊。可是这个只是暂时的，因为它只会突然来，它也会收回去，所以有 just like fall flat 这样，什么都做不了。You just very tired, you got no energy, you are not interested in anything. Life has so much suffering do I have this condition 我觉得是很难原谅那时的自己因为我是觉得所发生的事都是我的错，是我自己创造出来的，不够努力，不够用功，都是很责备自己这样啊。
19岁那年，陈丽莎和男友分手不到2个月后，接到对方被警方逮捕的消息。
He got grievous hurt to his family, and I felt responsible for what happened. I blamed myself a lot that time. I hated myself even more lah. And then I plunged into a certain darkness. I couldn't even feel sad anymore. I felt like I didn't care about anything in the world. All I cared about was trying to feel something again. But what do I want to feel? I found comfort in painting these uncomfortable expressions and stuff because it sort of depicts what I'm actually feeling inside.
面对难以承受的痛楚，陈丽莎甚至试过利用自残来减轻内心的煎熬。
It was so physically heavy and painful. I just wanted to feel something. And it really, really scared me because being someone who's afraid of blood to being comfortable with cuts was like possessed. When I did that, I just didn't recognize myself anymore.
那一年，陈丽莎被诊断出患上了抑郁症。
我听到的时候很难过了，没有想到她会中忧郁症。我的女儿会等到变到这样，会中上这种病。
The worst part was feeling like a burden to my parents lah. They have assured me so many times that no matter what I'll do, they will always be there. But I just couldn't help feeling like I don't deserve a spot in this world, you know.
So let's write about how we celebrated Mother's Day.
18年前被诊断出患有躁郁症的陈踏烈，目前在 Club Hill 日间护理中心工作，为精神病患者进行心灵复健活动。
Your mom can love you unconditionally.
Yeah.
我们在这里每个礼拜会有一个 journaling session， 会一起分享，就是没有对没有错，表达我们心里在想的事情。
But we love her so much lah. Now she's no more. We still think of her.
Still think of her.
Yes.
和这个病患接触，就是一个很 personal 的体验。我知道有精神病是一个很痛苦的东西。
Bye. High five.
医生跟我讲我有躁郁症，我其实不知道发生什么事，我只是知道我不是以前的自己。我在童年的时候就是很开朗和活泼的一个人，在学校跟同学每天开开心心，有朋友，什么都不用担心。可是病发之后就 like not sure of myself anymore。
当你孤单，你会想起谁？
不是很喜欢那时候的自己了，就是那时候的自己生活很痛苦了，好像另一个世界的人，又没有人能了解我经历了什么，家人又不明白，就觉得是自己对家人是一种负担这样。
和往日相比，陈踏烈现在和家人的关系和睦了许多。
这算是最美啊！15年前吧，我们一起庆祝生日，可能最开心的时候吧。就是以前好像很难了解对方啊，每次病发 we have disagreement, mood is quite unstable, you know. They feel that for safety reason they put me in the hospital for recovery 了。当时我会怪他们，为什么没有多点时间陪我啊？现在我可以谅解，因为 my misery became their misery, you know. Very sorry and very thankful that they still looking after me. I hope they can appreciate the effort that I put in to help myself.
Hello， 我买很多东西啊。这个是你们的
Favorite。
得知女儿有抑郁症，陈丽莎平时不善言辞的父亲顿时不知所措。
不懂怎样去处理啊。他喜欢吃的，我就弄给他吃咯。就是说不要去打扰他，不要去唠叨他了。
My school start already, you know, right?
我听到你要去读书啊，很开心啊我。
在家人的支持和陪伴之下，陈丽莎开始走上疗愈的轨道。不过2年前，她却再一次陷入因为感情纠纷而导致的暴力冲突。
We got into a violence that was so bad, it got me to snap. And I just thought that everyone is better without me.
那一晚，一个人独自留在祖屋顶楼的陈丽莎有了轻生的念头。
For a few minutes, I was sure I wanted to die, right? So I didn't.
警察讲，你的女儿她要自杀，我整个心掉下来了，头脑一片空白了。
If I were to just have 1 second of letting it go, right, that's it.
这首歌就让我想起在病院的时候，那时候我有点 a bit lost 啊。
在躁郁症的巅峰期，陈踏烈每隔2、3年都会因为无法控制躁狂的情绪而被送入医院。每一次入院都得住上至少2、3个月的时间。
I don't know what to do with my life because here I am starting, and then I move 1 step forward, and then I come back to this. When am I ever going to step out of it? 他已经给我很重的药，可是 I didn't improve my condition 是没有希望的日子。
这样反复入院的日子持续了10年，陈踏烈也因此无法完成理工学院的课程，也无法维持一份工作。
每一次病发的时候，我是觉得恢复的可能性等于0啊，就是怎么样也是好不起来，会觉得很没有用，很内疚啊。
It's over, it's over.
患有抑郁症的陈丽莎在20岁那年，原本企图结束生命。不过在那一刹那，在家中排行老大的她，突然想起了2位年幼的弟弟。
I just couldn't do it to my brothers. It's going to be a very, very traumatic experience for them.
心情不好哦，来这边走走。
那天 fetch 我从 IMH，then the next day， 其实我自己在这边走路。
自杀未遂， 陈丽莎那晚被送到心理卫生学院。
我看到我的女儿的眼神啊，她已经变了，傻掉了，我也是傻掉了。然后她跟我讲：“爸爸，我可以靠住你的肩膀吗？”
So he just like silent me, like we just didn't say anything. I just cried. The fact that he came in, he never gave up on me. He's just there, it's enough already, you know.
这样心情好了咯。
Yay!
在学习和躁郁症共存的日子里，陈踏烈找到了一个让他能够茁壮成长的避风港。
妈咪啊，
陈踏烈口中的这位妈妈，其实是他的良师益友Junaina。
Kacau ni ah, kacau me ni. Order meal ni. I want to please. I want to say.
No, I tell her what I want to eat.
Yeah. I want to eat this. I want to eat that.
8年前，陈踏烈通过医院的职业技能治疗师，认识了当时在那里当义工的Junaina。
I have questions I cannot ask my mother, I can ask her. So I think I can have someone that I can depend on. Maybe my plan now is find a new hobby.
Well, I see you are good in your handiwork. From hobby also can make a career.
他的家庭就像我第2个家庭，他们照顾我、爱护我，让我了解，就是我不是自己一个人。She is able to understand that what I have is a symptom. This is not me, and she can really teach me how to manage my symptom.
On the soil.
My plant not doing so well because the weather very dry.
He needs to confide to someone that understand him. I understand that because I've been through.
Junaina 在21年前就曾经患上重郁症，不过现在的她不止已经痊愈，也同时在非营利团体 Club Hill 为其他精神病患者提供手工美术课程。
他也克服了他的病情，就给我一点希望啊！我看到他是觉得有点启发，就要跟他学习了。
通过 Junaina， 陈踏烈参加了 Club Hill 的活动。原本是受惠者的他，后来变成了团体的义工。
Club Hill graduate 2021。
5年前，陈踏烈正式加入 Club Hill 的工作团队。
From the center, you press it down with both fingers.
As though they were making a bowl.
对我来说 ，Club Hill 是我第3个家庭。我们是有症状，可是我们也是能好好的过下去。
He make an effort to change, and then he keep on improving. He has that great potential. What shape you want to be?
在这里工作最有意义的就是看到一个人把自己的生活恢复，让我觉得很多满足感。以前我是不太喜欢自己，可是现在我已经学会怎么接受自己。Pottery somehow shows how capable you can be. You can actually create something beautiful. 我怎么看待自己的经历，就是好像 pottery 啊，像 clay 啦 ，clay can always be created again。我的人生没有被摧毁，我的人生能重新再 build up again。生命还有那个意义啊！我本身想成为一个能帮助别人的人。人与人相处，不是一个人好，大家好就会更好吗？
从死亡边缘走出来的陈丽莎受到感悟，重拾勇气，走出抑郁，面对自己内心最深切的恐惧。
It involved a lot of facing my mistakes truly and forgiving myself for those mistakes.
通过瑜伽和冥想辅助治疗，陈丽莎一步一脚印地学习培养应对挫折的韧性。
The first thing I thought was actually to be a role model for my brothers. I started to focus.
陈丽莎在理工学院的最后1个学期表现优越， 毕业后的他，现在是一名创意设计师，负责公司的营销和宣传。
Because it's posted on TikTok, then it has to be a little bit more relatable and funny, right? So we don't. I knew I was making very good improvement in terms of my inner dialogue and personal development because I was excited to live life again.
今年初，陈丽莎也邀请父亲和她一起在社交媒体上传达心理健康的正面讯息。
你刚刚知道的时候，你有没有怪妈妈？妈妈有没有怪你？
有一点点的。
没有，不要啦，不要怪，不是你们的错，哦。
这父母亲的，哎呀，都是很疼自己的女儿的嘛，孩子了嘛。我不要给人家看到我哭，但是啊，为了帮忙人家，还有我的女儿，她敢站出来做这种，给人家看到，会希望帮到更多人。
I knew the opinions would come in, but I knew the mission and intentions for making this content. It couldn't affect me anymore. So I felt a level of strength again, which felt very liberating.
他变得坚强了，很开朗。忧郁症啊，不是说很快就可以好了，他很骄傲，很厉害，他很强讲。
I definitely couldn't believe that 2 years looking back, I'll grow to this stage. But because I'm already here, it gives me further encouragement and it inspires me to just share this story even more.